Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first Crypt Campfire and Choose Your Nightmare of Scamps Adventure.
Who are these guys? What are they doing? I'm Zach. This is Ryan. This is Alyssa. We're with Block of Horror. We're partnering with Crypt TV. Basically, we're working on a series that we really want to open up to the community of Crypt TV to basically do like community collaboration content, right? So what we're basically calling this is Choose Your Nightmare. You can see the teas that we put together with Crypt. You get to choose, the pathway that this scamp nightmare essentially can unfold. And so everyone can essentially like choose a different experience or a different lore. So kind of bring it to you guys, kind of ask you some questions, Alyssa and Ryan. I'll start with this. So I had to look this word up, which is scamp. It's not in my vocabulary, so I was like, what does scamp mean actually, like in by definition? And so I'll just read it to you real quick, just kind of give the audience kind of a feel. It basically means an unscrupulous and often mischievous person, rascal, rogue, scalawag, a playful, mischievous, or naughty young person upstart, right? So, I mean, now that you know the definition, is that what you feel like when you watch Scamp?
He is a little menace. He's a little monster. And I was gonna say, if you had to look up the word scamp, you clearly were not a fan of Lady and the Tramp 2, Scamp's Adventure, which
That's good. Oh, yeah, I guess you might be right.
is a classic film to.
Yeah.
I
Put that on my
feel like
list.
scamp is very much in my dialect of words. I love little guys. Gremlins is one of my favorite movies, and I also I unabashedly love Gremlins 2 for just how insane it is. So anything that has a crazy little guy who's just like a menace, I'm obsessed. I'm in.
I actually saw Gremlins 2 before I saw the original, so I'm like, that's my favorite one, Gremlins 2 for sure.
Great, love it.
But I respect the original. Don't get me wrong, but like Gremlins 2 for sure. It's like just.
It's just wild. It's just
It is absolutely. It's so much fun.
So my question is, actually, it's one of my questions now that you brought it up. So in regards to Gremlins, right? If memory serves, what Gizmo is kind of like the one that breeds the nasty creatures, right? Do we see Scamp in that kind of like, is he kind of like a Gizmo more so than like the Gremlin, or is he like a hybrid? Like, and obviously I'm just using that as a point of reference. We don't see him as that. But I'm just curious.
I would
your thoughts.
say he's a hybrid. He kind of goes back and forth, where like it does have like his cute Gizmo mode, but then he also goes full stripe and he's killing. But it is usually, it's in this protection of the family. So he is attached to the family. That's why he ends up killing the dog, because it's bothering them, and the other guy, because he's like a peeping Tom. So he and then all the other people that he kills. It's only he's acting in self-defense. So he isn't like creating chaos for the sake of it like the Gremlins are.
But he also has sort of like his own sort of I don't want to say personality, but like independence, right? Like as far as like when the Gremlins movies all start, it's very much like Gizmo is sort of dependent on whoever has him in the moment, and then usually by the end of the story of the movie, he's like gained his independence and he's fighting back against all the other Gremlins. Whereas this, it's very much like Scamp has his own independence. He gets caught temporarily, and they save him, and so that I guess that's where he builds the bond with the couple, right? I guess in a way. Mm-hmm. So he is like, I'd be curious to see him also run off on his own adventure at some point too, and just see where that goes, and then like come back to the couple or something. You know what I mean? I think that'd be really fun.
He could definitely survive on his own. Like he has the skill set to manage out there. Yeah. Whereas Gizmo, he kind of needs a family.
Yeah.
And this is good. And just to kind of set the stage for everyone listening, I think what we're doing here, right, is to basically just kind of like establish what do we know about Scamp, right? Like what have we seen, right? There's a short, like we know like that for sure we can pull from. And so that's what we're doing this first kind of segment, is just kind of like feeling out like, okay, what do we remember? What sticks? Like what makes sense? Like, how could we utilize that later for something else? And then we'll start asking like harder questions. But to continue this through line, like I mentioned, obviously it's horror, it's fun. There's some humor in it, right? So when she pulls the trash can away, Scamp's holding onto it on the back of it, and she's like, "Where did he go?" And he's like turning his cute little head, and and then she like freaks out, right? Like those kind of moments, those subtle, moments, or like when he's eating the dog, the cat comes up and and then like the cat scurries away, right? So from a humor perspective, like, not that Scamp is intentionally humorous, but like, is there something we can pull from this type of story, this type of horror, that feeling that humor gives us that kind of warm, fuzzy feeling, but then he terrorizes us on the other side? I'm just curious what your take is from that like humor perspective, just in general, whether it's Scamp or like the characters, or like how far could we push the humor maybe? Like, I'm just curious what you guys think.
I think that horror and comedy go hand in hand. They're very similar in the way that they're set up. You build up to something and you want to flip people's expectations and surprise them, and sometimes that's with a joke and sometimes that's with a scare, but I think that they're set up in very similar ways. So, and you can also set up tension by doing one or the other and then flipping to the other one. So you can build tension and then release it by having a laugh, or have laugh, and then all of a sudden something absolutely terrifying that changes the tone of whatever is going on.
Yeah.
And I think this short.
Go to Ryan.
I was going to say, I think this short sets up a really good sort of path going forward too, because Scamp really is like doing his own thing through the whole short, and you have the couple mostly just like reacting, right? Like they freak out. Scamp comes in, does his thing, doesn't care what anyone thinks or does, and then they like, obviously they have like a good luck at the end of it or whatever. But I mean, like, the guy peeking through the window takes a picture and they freak out, and he jumps through the window and kills the dude, or like, eats a dog, or like the landlady, like, I'm gonna call the cops and I'm gonna kick you out of here. And all of a sudden he just goes over there and like not eats her, chokes her with the telephone code. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course. I mean, like, that, I think that has a lot of humor to it, where he's like, he doesn't care what you think, he doesn't care what anyone around him thinks, he's gonna go take care of business his own way, in whatever way that is. And I think there's a lot of humor in that. You know what I mean?
And it's all very extreme. Yes, it's pushing things to the absolute extreme.
The absurdity of it, which to me was exemplified when, after he eats the dog, the guy, he picks him up and he like puts him to sleep like in his bed next to his wife, and doesn't know that Scamp's there. Like, he's just like, oh, but what? Like, he's right? Like fat? He's fat and full, and he's like ready for his nap. Like, it just was really funny to me.
I think my favorite moment of peak absurdity is when I think it's the dad who's like, you know how we just lost our baby? This is our baby now, and the woman just be like, just accepting that. I'm like, okay.
Right. I know, it's such a jump there. I was like, if that was one thing, I would like, if there are more episodes or whatever, I would love to see them deal with actually, like, not on like a very heavy-handed, serious issue, but I would like them dealing with a little bit more of this whole baby loss thing later down the road too. You know what I mean? I think that could be interesting.
Wow.
I think that's what brings in like the seriousness and like the real world part of it is like she probably they just had a miscarriage or stillborn or whatever, and then like maybe she has postpartum depression too. Like there's all kinds of like real life stuff that's going on, and he's like, this is a monster baby. This is ours.
He puts a feral animal to sleep in their bed.
I almost wonder, because we know we have the couple, right? So when we're thinking through this, like, choose your nightmare adventure, something we have to kind of think through as we kind of figure out, like, okay, like, we know the kind of variables that already, like, are there. What kind of pivots and options can we come up with that could be, interesting, but also, like, still make sense in the context of the world that's already there? Is what if, like, it's, like, fast forward 5 years later and they've had a kid, like, another chance at a kid, and then, like, that's an option through the Choose Your Nightmare, that we're getting the relationship between the now like 6-year-old, let's say, obviously that's not 5 years, but 6 years, something in that range, and Scamp, and how Scamp maybe starts to gravitate to the kid more or something, or like, is there like internal conflict between the family that like, no, he's my badass super gremlin like thing that can kill anybody, like, just to find that kind of richness, not that we necessarily need it in this type of horror per se, but just to give us options to flirt with, especially from conceiving the details and all that good stuff. It just came to my mind when we talked about the baby, that like that's the type of thing that like, oh yeah, maybe we fast forward in this time frame when we get into the writing process, more detailed driven. So just food for thought. But this is why I love these types of things, is because as we talk about these, what's happened, what could happen, and I hope everyone in the audience, like if you get an idea, like, obviously like feel free to share it. And same with, Alyssa and Ryan. And that's what this is for, is hey, like, oh yeah, that was a great idea. Well, what if we spin off that idea and we do that idea? Like, oh, that could work too. So yeah, just really love that possibility. But yeah, to continue forward. All right, so to get into a little more granular, so we're starting to talk about like, the broad strokes, like, there's some humor there. There's, who these characters might be. I want to ask you, Alyssa, where did Scamp come from? Because on the fan wiki, there was some like definitive, like, this is where he came from, and they even mentioned you, I think. So I'm curious, like, what your intel is on where Scamp came from.
Okay, so I was working in the Crypt office when Scamp was being made, so I do have some insider info and got to see some cuts that were not released. So my understanding of where Scamp comes from is that he crash landed from space on a spaceship, and he came with his big mama Scamp, and so he disappeared, but then there's a big mama Scamp who's out there looking for him. And it's the hunter in the beginning who's like setting a trap or something that comes upon him in the woods. But yeah, my understanding is that he crash landed from space.
Wow. I mean, that makes sense, the crash landing from the opening, but the mama thing, that's very interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. I mean, so he's like a young Scamp. He's like
he's just a little
juvenile
guy. Yeah.
Interesting. Gives you a lot of room to run from a story perspective, as he's developing his inner monster and his inner
he's not fully grown yet.
Friend. Yeah. We don't know what he's going to become. Yeah, that's interesting.
Or what his mom is like, if she is just as monstrous, or if she wants him to behave a different way.
So the characters named him Scamp. Maybe that's something we can pose to the community through this week.
What is his real name?
His real name?
His given name.
What is his real name? And also, like, what is his species? Right? I mean, because, gremlins, I guess that was kind of their species, right? I don't know what they called the...
Mogwai.
Mogwai?
Mogwai, yeah.
Mogwai. So, yeah, so maybe the community, I think, like, this would be a great example of, like, in an opening sequence, right? We could basically present, like, in the narration, like, there was this creature roaming around, where he came from. There was a paper that he found and it said this, and it's like, okay, that's what he is, or whatever. Like, we could figure out how we want to frame it, but that could be something that the community provides options for, and then we put that in the Choose Your Nightmare, that then the wider audience will pick which one they want to experience, and then they'll experience that version of events with that in play, if that makes sense. So that's what's kind of cool about this, is essentially we can put that up to the audience and be like, you guys decide, like, give us the options and then decide the fate. So yeah, that's probably a great one. I'm gonna make sure we track that for later, but feel free if anybody has any suggestions of what's his species, what's his real name, because maybe, what if he gets sick of being called Scamp? Like, sometimes, like, that's not my name, you never ask my name, like, even though he doesn't talk, but like, maybe he gets frustrated, he's like getting glowy eyed and he's about to attack, and they're like, okay, just,
Well, yeah, so he crashed from space, but space could be... So there's the realm of torment where many monsters are made, so it's possible... And there's also tears in the universe that happen, so it's possible that Scamp could have fallen through a tear, or him and his mom were traveling somehow through the universe, and they ended up crash landing here. But presumably there's more of the family somewhere. Scamp's mom has a mom, and maybe there's generations of the Scamp lineage and whatever species he is.
Could they have been chased through space? Could they be trying to escape something, and that follows them to Earth? And so that you have an even bigger monster hunting them down as well.
I think, there's a lot of room to explore the torment realm, because we haven't really gone there in the Crypt shorts. We just know that some monsters come from there.
I love that. I love that idea that, one, we could introduce a different monster as a part of this in some capacity, even if it's small. But the idea also that we can, because Scamp to me is like lovable, right? Like the whole presentation of Scamp is like, we know he's a monster. He's like, again, like kind of that Gizmo effect. Like, you're like, yeah, you're badass, you're very dangerous, but like, you're our baby now, right? So I feel like almost like playing into Scamp being like this protagonist that like, you know, don't get too close to him though, like, because he might eat your face off, right? Like, is probably safe to go that direction. So having an antagonist super monster that maybe is like trying to consume Scamp to get his powers, or just like hates him, or whatever we come up with, could be an interesting way to explore, even if it's only one option of the Choose Your Nightmare. So either way, I'm not sure yet. I don't think any of us are, but I think that's definitely a cool idea.
It's interesting because it's like, if you do have Mom out there, so you've got Mom trying to find him, you've got a bigger thing trying to hunt him down too, that they were originally escaping from. And then obviously at the end of the short too, like, you have to have like cops or the FBI chasing down this couple as well, right? Like, they just
they killed a cop and they took off in the cop car. So
Exactly.
yeah, you don't do that.
Well, that's, you know what's interesting? What's cool, again, I'm not trying to like beat up this Choose Your Nightmare. I'm just trying to think through this, because this is a slightly different way of thinking of developing story in general that I think most people are not used to, including myself. But, you know, where in the story are we when we tell this Choose Your Nightmare? Because there's a path where we go back in time, right? We go forward in time. We go right at the end of where the last story ended. Or some kind of meta trippy thing where, depending the choices you make in the storyline, you're going to go to a different timeline. So we could set up multiple fashions. So just to kind of give you all some ammo, you know, especially in this early stage, there's no wrong answer. Like, we can go, I mean, I love the idea of like, we can do anything, right? Like, from an imagination perspective. And so obviously we'll have to refine it, make sense of it all, like, as we get closer, refine. But for now, hey, like, I love that idea of like, one of the storylines is like, at the end, you know, at the end of the short, they stole a cop car and killed a cop, and they're on the run. Like, a bunch of people are gonna be dead, and they're like, they're fucked. Like, there's gonna be a SWAT team coming after them very soon. You know, but what else could we potentially come up with that potentially could be a spinoff? Maybe in a different time, different place, different people. I don't know. Just food for
Right,
thought.
Scamp could have met any other family that maybe they didn't just have a miscarriage, so their reaction to Scamp showing up in their lives may be completely different, and maybe they aren't as open to it as his family is.
But I will say, like, at the end of the short, all I wanted to see next was them running off to Vegas to get married, and Scamp, like, officiating, basically.
Yes.
I think the coolest thing ever.
Which, it's interesting that you say that, because like, Scamp is presented as intelligent. Like, he, you know, so there's the bullet, right? The bullet that I don't quite understand in the context of the film, but the bullet has blood on it, and like, once I forget his name, picks it up and pockets it, there's like this like telepathic almost connection, right? Mm-hmm. Is that kind of what you guys are getting? Like, that, and that sense of like, oh, you know, we now like feel each other's empathy or something. Like when you're upset,
so
I'm upset.
each monster has a totem. Some of them make more sense than others. Like, the Luxie's totem is his pocket watch, and that allows him to communicate with people and travel through dimensions and crazy stuff like that. But Scamp's totem is this bullet so when he crash lands on that hunter's little site, something about him connecting with that place and the bullet being there, something like psychically connected them, and now that bullet has a piece of they're connected some way. And so yeah, when the man has the bullet, then he's psychically connected with Scamp.
Which would tell it, which, I mean, to me it suggests then he's been to Earth before if he's a traveling space creature, correct?
True, yeah. No, I didn't think of that before.
So he's been here before, maybe as a baby Scamp.
A
That
little
would play
baby
out.
Scamp.
So he's even cuter. He's even cuter the next time around, and even more vicious. He can't control
Or
his
maybe
behavior.
he's up to something. If he's been here before, and then he happens to pick this family that just lost their baby and will be more susceptible to his cuteness and having a space in their life. Maybe he is escaping something with his mom, but they have different ideas about how to do it, and he's like infiltrating this family to like use them somehow.
Yeah. I'm going to ask the question, Alyssa, because I know you know things that maybe other people don't know. Since the audience doesn't know anything about this mom character, does she have to exist?
No, she doesn't. No.
Okay. I'm just asking you the question because you do know things that other people don't know. And that's kind of what this process kind of, to me, is going to end up as, right? Is live. You're going to choose a narrative and experience it, and that's going to be real for you as the audience. But we'll be able to track, in essence, like what was the most selected choice. And so that end result will become kind of canonized lore. And so the other ones like existed for the people who experienced them, but it doesn't mean like that's the final, like this is quote unquote, stamped Crypt's lore or whatever. Like, and obviously those things can change over time, blah, blah, blah. But I was just curious what your feelings or thoughts were if Momma got nixed, or we found a different version of Momma that people don't expect, or I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's definitely not. He doesn't have to have come down with his mom. That was just a cut that was partially shot and then partially SFX'd, and then it got scrapped.
Or she shows up at the end and we pull an ET heartbreaking ending with tears, and everyone goes home happy, and it's wonderful. Right?
I could maybe.
He
honestly
joins mom. He joins his people
gotta
again.
Go home. Yeah.
They go home.
They go home. But what if home is just going to the next house to eat more or something? Like what if it's like it's not what you expect home to be?
He's got to come
for
back.
them. Like they're
He's
actually
like, we decided not to eat your planet, but we gotta go to another one. Sorry, we gotta eat somebody.
Yeah, right.
What if like Scamp is actually like the most menacing creature on the face of like the universe, and like this guy, like literally this guy does something nice for him, and he's never experienced anything nice, and that's the only reason he doesn't eat them. And so like Scamp just keeps eating everyone. He's like, everyone's like, what? Why is he doing this? And it's like, and then we discover like, oh no, he was gonna eat everybody. It's just like he never experienced kindness, so he was like, oh, well I guess I won't eat you.
He made
then.
an exception.
And then that's how you defeat him, right? Is like, you gotta be nice to him.
You have to be nice to him. Give him little snacks.
Give him, yeah.
Make him a little bed.
Feed your
He's
dog
just a
to
little
him,
guy who wants a little bed. I was gonna say, what if Scamp ended up in a science lab, and Christopher Lee was there, and
Dang.
there's some bat juice, and he turns into a little bat. And also there's some salad juice, and he can turn into a tomato salad. And also there's some spider juice, and he can turn into a freaky spider, and he's gonna whip somebody up. None of these are from Gremlins 2. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, there could.
Christopher Lee is not alive.
We'll bring it
But
back.
Alyssa, you bring up a really great point, though, right? And I think we saw this. If a great thing to watch to get a feel for this style of content, right, is obviously Bandersnatch. Kind of put it on the map with Netflix. But if you remember, and if you haven't seen it, I'll try not to give it all away. There's a very meta interpretation at times with what you choose to do. Maybe some breaking the fourth wall type stuff, and so. Maybe there's something of that in this, right? Like maybe there is this kind of like paying homage to some classical X, Y, and Z, or some horror thing everyone's familiar with in some capacity, and but framed in the moment of a choice that the audience is going to have to make. And so, do you want the kind of like wink, wink, nod, nod version of events here, or do you want something that keeps you a little more trapped in the narrative that is the grittier, nittier type whatever, right? So that's a great point. Is you can almost like break metas or subgenres at times, like kind of like explore different pathways, because ultimately that's the whole point, is like you want the audience to literally like choose, like how do they want to experience this unfolding, and some people like different things, and that's okay. So it's
Some
I think it's a
people
great
are
thing
here
brought
for
up.
the camp, and one of those people is me.
Yeah,
No,
100%.
and that's exactly what I mean. And that's what's actually like really cool to me about this, is that ability to say, hey, let's camp the F out of storyline A, right? Like let's actually it allows us freedom to go further than what we thought we could get away with, because when you're just trying to do one very concise, perfect story, sometimes you're like, well, it's got to be perfect, and then you try too hard, and it's like sometimes you need freedom. And freedom to
100%.
explore what's possible. So this is a great exercise, I think, for us all to be like, all right, version A, how camp can we get? And just push it. See how far we get. And then another one, we can say, how dark can we get in option B? And option C, let's find the humor more. Let's see how far we can get it. And see what happens if you, and then once you're doing a choose your adventure type story, some of those things are going to cross and blend and whatnot. But if you go one very strong direction, it'll be one very strong type experience. So I dig that. I dig that idea. So this is part of something I think we'll need to get clarity on. Not today, but just in general. Is Scamp possesses superhuman power and strength. He can eat full humans in a very quick amount of time. Not sure where they go. And he can, in the end, right? He harness the electrical current from the police officer, and he throws it back at him, and I think that kills him, if memory serves.
Yeah, he like absorbs the taser and shoots it back like Emperor Palpatine.
What? How does he like that? That's like your left feel like, oh, he can do that. Like so maybe he is like travels the universe, because I feel like that's a power that like he definitely get that from Earth. Like like it's almost like a special, I don't know.
Yeah, the power
Just
to
super cool.
reflect electricity does not come in our natural realm.
No. And I think what's interesting about that too, but from like a human perspective, is like, okay, what if you have this thing that can do that? And like, not only can it kill people, but it can basically make all the evidence disappear because it consumes it as well. It's like, what do you do with that, right? Like, do you go to the dark side as well? And do you, or do you hunt down serial killers like the Sunny family cult and like go kill bad people? Or do you go rob a bank? Or do you go do something else? You know what I mean? There's some interesting effects that could have on the human psyche as well, having this ability to point this thing wherever you want it to in a way and have it just kind of go do its thing. And that can be really interesting as far as story-wise, for our couple or future families down the road or whatever you want to do.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's tricky because right now we're just kind of opening Pandora's box, right? We're just kind of, hey, anything goes. So the harder part's going to be, how do we distill this down and go make choices, right? Because there's so many cool options we can explore. We'll get to that, but this kind of brings up back to the magic bullet point. Are we sure? So we understand it's part of like the bigger Crypt backdrop, right? Like the bigger Crypt lore. Is there something that we can explore in that fashion, do you think, Alyssa? Like really pushing through this vehicle that we establish like more guidelines or rules, or
I think that there's something to because torment fragments are something that are present wherever there are portals to the torment realm. So there are portals on Earth that go to the monster realm. So it's possible that there were torment fragments on this site, or that torment fragments mixed with the bullet or touched the bullet, or there's something about this crash site that affected objects around it and gave them magical properties.
Interesting. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, wasn't he being hunted? So was the bullet the hunter? And I think a gunshot went off. He was probably trying to kill Scamp, and that's when we cut away. So I'm thinking that's where the bullet came from, right? That would make sense.
If he's kept away from the bullet at a certain amount of time, does it like affect him at all? Like, does it bring his powers down or anything?
That's a good question.
That's not decided.
Interesting. Bullet does he lose? It's almost
Like,
like
does
his
he need it nearby to keep
Yeah,
his
does
power?
it contain some amount of his power? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
like almost like his genie lamp or something, or his
His
probably
Green
not the
Lantern.
best analogy. Yeah, his Green Lantern. Yeah, well, and that's good. I mean, you know, those are the types of things we're gonna want to track, and you know, offer up to the community and say, hey, like, and maybe even do some votes in the Discord, and say, hey, like, here's 5 options that everyone submitted. Like, what do we think? And then we'll work to see if how we can get them in the Choose Your Nightmare. Okay, another question I had, only a couple more. And if anyone has any questions or thoughts, oh, here's one. We'll start with this. So this is a good example of what I was talking about. So Scamp Pet Shop sells scamps with different animal monster traits. That's interesting. Like, is there, like, what if there's like this underground, like, monster warehouse type thing we could finagle in or something, and or like a scamp undermarket or something, and like they've been like selling scamps, and this scamp came down with Momma to set them free or something. We could create like a whole storyline that's like totally we make up, right, and go in a direction that people don't expect. Not that
So
we have
there's
to, or
like
we
an
should.
illegal monster trafficking
Yeah, monster trafficking
or
that's
something.
That's interesting.
That's wild, and I love it.
Only if
I
our
love
Scamp
that.
like gets to like come in and they all like build armor together to like lead the revolt against whoever's holding them hostage. I think that'd be great.
Yes, yes.
Hilarious. We just turn it into Game of Monsters. And then
Yes.
it's just one big dragon-filled.
Oh my god.
Well, I don't. Why did I just think of the Legally Blonde movie where they like bust out all of? Is it the second one where they bust out? I'm asking several men about Legally Blonde.
What did they bust out?
I'm pretty
What are you
sure in
talking
the
about?
second Legally Blonde, her little doggy is like his family is like being tested on, and so she goes to like help PETA and like help bust out all the doggy.
Maybe.
I promise this is real.
Seems right. I just don't remember that. It's been a minute.
I agree with that 100%. I've never seen the sequel. I couldn't tell you anything about it.
That's super interesting, though. Like, well, and again, whatever we come up with through this process, and again, like I said, there's going to be 1,000 different versions of things we can do. Eventually, we'll land on some things. But I do love the idea of, like, furthering broadening as a part of this, like the Crypt multiverse, right? Like the monster universe, like things that we don't know. So like there are things like we know, like the torment fragments and things like that. But just like what else can we like this whole idea of like a monster underground could play into some stuff I've seen on Crypt before.
Who is our monster rights activist?
A monster rights activist. I like that. And maybe they're like finding ways to like free themselves and then team up and take out the bad humans. I don't know.
There's also
Might be too
a
on the
really
nose,
interesting angle that we haven't fully delved into in the Crypt universe, which is like generally how humans interact with monsters and how much they accept that monsters are real and that like all of this stuff is real. So like some people seem like this is totally normal. I go to a monster camp where we go to hunt monsters and that's just normal life. And then other people are like very surprised when a monster shows up. So
Well, to frame it with Scamp, based on what we have, to me, the feeling I got was they were so overwhelmed with having lost their child and their situation, they more easily adapted to buying into the idea that, oh, I guess this is a monster that's going to help us. So I would err on the side of, like, for Scamp's purposes, I guess, like, most people are going to be like, what the hell is that thing? It's creepy, it's weird, it's scary. But then again, maybe not. And maybe it connects with different people in different ways. Like, I get this idea of, like, children, like, no. Because, you know, children are, like, perceptive with, like, honest things and stuff. Like, what if, like, anytime it's a kid, like, they're, like, best friends with Scamp and, like, there's no risk of anything. Because
so maybe there are kids who are monster rights activists because they know that they're real and all the parents are insisting, no, they're not. But these kids know. And then somehow, yeah, parents do bad things to monsters or, like, just try to kill them and get rid of them. But kids are like, no, some of them are good, and just have a need that is unfulfilled.
Well, doesn't that play like into Cake Man? I feel like because isn't she like, Mom, bad things are happening. They're like, be quiet, kid. Nothing. You're gonna be fine or something like. I feel
Yeah,
like
they ignore her completely. But the Cake Man, he comes every June 6th to kidnap a 6-year-old whose birthday it is, and then he cuts off 6 of their fingers to put on his crown.
Ooh. That's dark.
That is dark.
Back to Cuddly Scamp. No, it's ironic because like when I rewatched it, because each time you rewatch something, you kind of look for different things that you might have missed the first time because you're just like taking it all in. He's really cute, like cuddly. Like you're just like, yeah, you got big teeth, but you're like, he's like if that thing was walking around. Yeah, if he was walking around, you'd be like, he's like a little dog that like walks and like until he bites someone's head off, and then you're like, oh crap, wow, whoops. But he's just like the way they frame him and all that. So I'm not sure exactly how we'll play with that, but it's just something that I keep getting when I watch it. It's just like how cuddly he seems.
He does.
Oh, so I had another thought. This is like total left field because I think we've done some of that left field stuff on this conversation, which is great, especially early on. I had this idea and I want to present it to you all, and you tell me it's terrible, whatever. What if is there a world where through the like narration of this like creepypasta sort of Choose Your Nightmare, that the voice is of Scamp in some capacity? Whether it's like Scamps like, and then it turns into something we can understand because we're part of the monster world he's in, or if it's his connected partner, the guy with the bullet, and it's him speaking on behalf of Scamp. So is there a possibility that we experience this story from the monster's perspective as an option in the Choose Your Nightmare? So let's say early on, whose perspective do you want to experience this story from? Because I was just thinking because he is smart. Some monsters are really not very smart. Scamp is like you're like, no, he knows things, right? That he shouldn't know. Right. And so to me, what's going on in his head? Wouldn't it be cool if we could actually know what he's thinking? And so that could be a very interesting thing, exercise, even if we don't use it, to really get in the head of Scamp, and that'll probably help us answer a lot of these questions we've been asking. Who is he? Where did he come from? What does he really want? That was just food for thought of something that we could explore, which might be a cool thing to play in this Choose Your Nightmares, changing perspectives, and then you could have fun exercise where sometimes, the voice actor is like, excuse me, I'm back to me, it's me, Scamp, but now I'm talking so you can understand me. So kind of break that fourth wall a little bit, have fun with it maybe.
Yeah, I think that would it would break up the storytelling style, and Scamp would probably have a more chaotic voice, or maybe slightly more disorganized, or maybe he's an unreliable narrator.
Or just you're talking about one full episode, right? Where it's we understand Scamp the entire time, but everyone else is gargly voices. It's from his perspective the whole time. Because that would be really funny.
That's cool too.
That's hilarious.
Right. Yeah.
If we can do that, sure.
That'd be really funny.
And I will be kind of transparent. Anytime, especially from a technique perspective, I've learned this the hard way in my career and life, is that you're trying to push the boundaries from a medium forum type thing, then you're opening up the box of issues on top of those issues, right? So it's hard enough to do one thing. So we'll basically we'll see what works and what we can actually accomplish and do, because ultimately we got to get this into a place where we can actually create something. But that was just even if it's the best idea in the world, sometimes it's for pragmatic purposes, we may have to go, maybe on the next one, we'll try this time type thing. I don't know what that is yet, but just food for thought. So you could even play out in the storyline that at something, Scamp discovers something, he's talking into a Google chat phone. He's and the Google chat knows what he's saying. And you're like, wait, what? And that validates the kind of realism to a degree. So that way it's not you don't have to play it out the whole time, but it could be a moment we infuse that could be fun and exciting.
That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks I'm gonna butcher your name, so I'm not even gonna say it. Maybe Alyssa can say it correct.
Who's that?
Lyrenvas.
Lyren Vaskar?
Lyren Vaskar. I just hate
Or it
butchering
could be-
people's names.
It could be like, what about like a collar, like a dog in Up, right?
Oh,
So it's
yeah,
like-
where it translates
Yeah.
to voice. Yeah, yeah.
Right, yeah. That could be really fun too.
Okay, so this is all great. So just kind of to wrap up what we did and what we're gonna do next time, right? Is we basically like opened Pandora's box, got the ideas flowing, and we hope you all did too. Feel free again, hop in the Discord, share ideas, thoughts, artwork, whatever you want. We're gonna cycle through all of this stuff, take stuff that people have offered this week, through the week into next week, etc. And then next week, what we want to do is continue to refine all of this stuff and say, okay, we're like this, and start putting things together from like, who is Scamp? What does he want? What obstacles does he have? And like, maybe we'll do a baseline first. Like, what is and maybe the easiest way to think through this is at the end of the story, like Alyssa and Ryan said, they hop in the car and they're off. Well, what happens next, right? Because we have something to go off. We can start there. But then as we go through that process, we can say, okay, like here's a good spot for us to pivot into something else. Here's where we can go really camp. Here's where we can do some really dark stuff. Here's where we can pull out and, have Scamp find something that we don't even know right now. And so that's what we'll work through next week, is to really just kind of define this like kind of a storyline. And then we'll try to work from there after that. And obviously with that, there's going to be like character development. We're going to basically work through sending out some, prompts for people to have fun with type stuff through the next few weeks. So look out for that. And that's basically what we're doing. We're here having fun. And we're honestly going to be also working to see if we can get some special guests to kind of pop up and share their, storytelling abilities or development or, fandom with horror, any of that good stuff. But yeah, that's the gist. I want to ask this question because I'd like to ask these like hard ethical questions just to see your reactions and like, what do you think, right? Because I think a lot of, Crypt stories are about this like idea of, monsters with heart, right? So it's kind of like that, the almost moral ambiguity of things sometimes. Like, yeah, he is eating a kid that was a peeping Tom. Like, is that too extreme? Like, maybe, but, So this is the question, Ryan and Alyssa. If you had to choose between saving 100 random kids you don't know and be celebrated worldwide as a hero, or saving the love of your life and only they would know, who do you choose and why?
I'm
very
going to
difficult.
go ahead and say right away, I'm saving the love of my life. Screw these kids. I don't know them. I don't need to be a hero. I don't need to be famous. I'm fine. I got me and my love, and like...
Okay.
Bye!
So so I see what you're saying there, and I hear you. And yes, like instinct-wise, I would go, yes, the love of my life. However, if the love of my life knows the choice I had to make, I don't know how she would react, right?
Ooh.
So it's like,
You think she would be like, no, you should have picked the kids instead of me. No!
Knowing my wife, yes. My wife would be like, are you effing kidding me right now? What did you do? You know what I mean? Like,
your
yeah.
wife is a saint. We get it.
So Ryan, what if
Yeah.
your wife
Yeah.
will never find out that you didn't
100%.
choose the kids?
I will save her. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I'll see you later,
this is a tough, and this is where it's
Okay.
like,
Ryan, I'm
theory
going to get you a
versus-
t-shirt. It's the most devastating
Choose.
t-shirt that I have ever seen in my life. It was real. It was this man that I saw in Disneyland, and the back of his t-shirt said, my wife, he's like, I'm not a widower. I have a wife with wings. So that's the t-shirt that I'm going to get for you after you save these 100 kids. You can wear it on live TV. Everyone will know what you did.
It's hilarious.
Pitch this to your wife tonight. I really want to know, like, what...
Yeah,
I
run
need
it
a
by her.
report back. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll run it
Thank
by
you.
her. I will let you know tomorrow in the Discord. Yeah,
Excellent. Excellent.
What about you, Zach?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
flip it back on Zach.
It's such a tough... It's funny, like, I like came up with this question, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I wrote it, I'm like, oh, that's hard. That's why I was willing to ask it, because I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they know, I don't know.
Setting up trolley problems that you're not ready to
I mean, it's so...
trolley yourself.
It's tricky because, like, it wouldn't be about the fame. It'd be more so, like, how mad my wife made me that day. No, I'm kidding. No, but like, this idea of, like, intellectually, you're like, I know I should save the kids, right? But, like, emotionally, obviously, it's like, well, I don't know them. Like, who are they?
I don't know them.
So it's hard in that sense. But, like, I feel like the guilt of not choosing the kids is worse than, like, she would understand, you know, like, type thing. But then again, like, man, my daughter's attached at the hip to my wife. That's probably the straw that broke the camel's back. It's tough.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have to, I feel like I'd have to say, I have to save the kids. I just gotta be like, it's not like, it's almost like not my choice. Like, it's like they're kids. Like, if it was adults.
Tell this to your wife and then tell me what
Oh, I'll
she
tell her.
says.
We're very
No, I
honest with
want
each other.
I want the receipts.
I'll
I don't know
tell
what
her
I
I
was gonna say. They're
sacrificed
gonna be
her.
like, you made the right choice. Fuck these kids.
Yeah. Well, I mean, where are the kids? You know, where are the kids? Who are they? You know, no. But they're kids. It's if they were adults, I think it'd be easier to be like, yeah. But you know, kids are just so like innocent.
You have
they're
laid
really
out
just innocent.
such. These are such vague circumstances. Like I have no emotional attachment to these children. I'm ready
and
to
you don't know
throw
the kids,
them
right?
away.
That's part of the question. Part of the question is like you don't even know the kids at all, right?
Yeah. No, you don't know.
Yeah, you'd be over it in a week.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, what
you're probably
kids?
right. Yeah, you're probably right. But still, it's like if you had the chance and you know, I don't know, it's tough.
Okay. You save
Yep.
the kids,
But
you lose your wife, and now you're a single father raising how many kids?
Exactly. Now you got 100 kids and no wife. How's that sound?
wait. This choose your nightmare went into overload. We have you've chosen 100 kids to adopt. I didn't say you had to do that.
No, but I'm just saying, like, you know, I mean, you have kids, right? So it's like you lose your wife, and now you've got to raise your kids on your own. Like, there's no partner to help you.
True.
And sure,
Yeah,
you're a
then
public
you have
hero,
to
but at
do
the same
the-
time,
Are you gonna
That
get
ain't easy.
remarried? You're gonna go through that dilemma, and then like all of these 100
That's
kids
true.
are gonna be like they're gonna feel like they owe you something for the rest of. So like you're literally gonna have 100 kids now.
yeah, that's true. That's like 100 like babysitters for your kids.
Well, okay.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe they're all the same age. I don't know.
All right. Well, you know, like the old lady in Legion, let them burn. I guess then. You guys.
Not all of those kids
know.
were gonna turn out to be good.
That's very
One
true.
of
There was
them
100.
was
True.
already getting all
Way
righted.
more than one. Way more than one of them.
Statistically, several of them were on their way to terrorism. So
3% were going to be domestic abusers and or whatever it is. I don't know.
we actually protected women today. Thank you
go.
very much. Great
By
work,
offering
everybody.
100 random innocent kids. Yes. That's what
At,
we do.
at Crypt TV, kids are never safe. That is the first thing that you learn
yeah.
here. So
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, we appreciate everybody coming, and thank you for
thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in Discord and here on YouTube. We'll be back at the same time next week. And please join us in Discord for more Choose Your Own Nightmares.